So they say we're live and rolling.
Hey.
So I'm so pleased. I've got Julie here, and we are just getting ourselves set up to have a conversation about how to prevent underage drinking. But we're waiting for people to come on and join us and get their tea or their coffee, get the kids to bed, or get the kids in front of the computer, because I'm quite happy to have the kids join in this conversation as well. We're trying to make this as community as possible.
That's right.
And as you know, a lot of advice that I've given in the past is if we can't talk about children, we need to talk with children.
There you go. So if your kids are around, gather around.
Gather around.
There's hashtag family talk.
Yeah, that's right.
Right?
Exactly. Which I'm going to explain that whole program to our viewers, because even though you're maybe just joining us for the first time tonight, and if you are, hello and welcome. And I am going to formally introduce Julie myself a little bit. But I want to go through what that program is all about, because this is just one event that's actually part of a series of events. And they're all archived, and you can watch them in any order, and you can join in at any time.
And are they all on your site?
They're all on my YouTube channel.
Your YouTube channel.
Perfect. Yeah. And so the important part for me is that I need to know, what are your burning issues with your kids?
Yeah, teenagers, right?
You're right. So now remind me the ages of your children.
So they're 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 19.
20, 22, 24.
Yeah, right? No, there's only 6. Just the 6.
So Julie Cole, if you don't know, many of you are actually watching because you watch everything that Julie Cole does, and that's why you're actually here. But she's the co-founder of Mabel's Labels. She is a beloved mompreneur. She's also a blogger, and she's got a huge presence on social media. But outside of social media, you'll often see her on regular media, at mommy conferences.
Yeah,
you get around.
Get around a bit.
You get around.
You get around. I escape the madhouse when I can.
Yeah. So, but part of my joy in having you on is not only do you communicate a lot with moms, so I think that you kind of represent the general angst and pain. Like you're dealing with moms all the time, right?
For sure.
We're kind of all in this together. But you've also gone through this with 6 kids, so you've had them at each stage of different, and you've got now a range, because not all kids react and respond and do things the same.
That's
so you've
right. They're all very different.
You have a sample size. You have a large sample size, random distribution of behaviors within your family.
Heirs and spares.
Yeah. So maybe we'll hopefully assume that people are now here and in and settled. And thank you for joining us. As I said, the idea of this is that we're going to have a conversation about how to prevent underage drinking and how to get that conversation started at home. But for you folks, please join in the conversation, and you do that by putting comments in the comment field below. And so I've got Catherine here. Say hi, Catherine. Hi. Catherine will be helping us answer questions towards the end of the show. And we also have a nice opportunity where if anyone puts a question in, your name will be entered into a draw for a $250 Visa gift card.
Oh, nice.
So just ask away. This is your opportunity. Pretty nice.
So not only do they have the opportunity to have us answer the questions, they are entered to win a gift card.
Yeah.
Nice.
Who doesn't like that?
Right?
Yeah.
Hey, kids, if you're watching Mommy, ask a question.
Ask a question. That's right. Ask a question.
All 6 of you. 6 times our chances.
So I'm interested. Please now, just so we get your fingers on the keyboard. Who's watching? Tell me, please, what province are you watching for? What town are you watching from? And how old are your kids? Because as I said, some of you have got kids at the beginning of this journey, and you're just starting to think about how you might talk to them. And maybe you've already got kids who've come home drunk, and you're wondering whether or not you did that okay. So I'm curious to know which way we're skewing, if we have a cross section. So take a moment now, put in the ages of your kids. Say the ages of yours again.
So they're 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 19. And actually, come October, I'll be the proud mother of 5 teenagers. 5 teenagers in one household.
That's when it rolls over.
That's where it rolls over. Actually, I say one household, but the 18 and 19-year-old are await university.
Yeah.
Will be await university. So I'll only actually have 3 in the household.
No. That's lots.
That's good enough.
That's enough.
Yeah.
Wow. And my 2 are actually, as you know, my 2 are 24 and 25. Yeah. And so
You've already survived it.
They're actually done university, and they're employed.
And they're off your payroll?
Right?
Oh,
off my payroll. So I feel like I've completed the life cycle. Oh, dear. So I'm going to just tell these people a little bit more about what is unique to the hashtag Family Talk campaign. So this program is supposed to give parents confidence and tools to help prevent and deal properly with underage drinking. And that a lot of what we are trying to help parents understand and is that they feel powerless. Right now, the problem is parents feel powerless. They think the peers are going to influence them. They throw their hands in the air and they become permissive. And in fact, so permissive that they will buy their kids alcohol and host parties for minors, which is illegal. So part of what we're trying to bring to parents is the research that shows that, in fact, parents still are the number one influence on whether kids drink as minors.
Why do you think parents don't think that anymore? Why do you think parents are just like, oh, the kids, the teenagers, they're all influencing each other and we've lost our influence?
Well, I think because we talk about peer pressure so much that we almost
we're believing it.
Well, yes, to the point where I've read other books that actually call, hold your kids tight, because we think that they're going to cut the apron strings and drift, and it's almost a self-fulfilling prophecy. Right. We think they're going to rebel and disappear,
so
and
then they do.
And then they do, and then they say, you didn't care about me. We said, I knocked you, you were always in your room. So we have to stop believing the fable that our kids drift off and get sucked into their peer group. They really do miss us and want us. And parents, we need to step up. They really want to hear from us.
You know what? I actually just remembered something very interesting from high school. We had a curfew, and we had a bunch of friends in high school who didn't have a curfew, and they were jealous of us. That just came to me now.
So, and so isn't that a beautiful, exactly of the example? Yeah. So those parents that are afraid to set limits and boundaries, and of course you probably moaned.
Sure we did.
You moaned that you had the curfew. Well, the kids don't have the curfew. Yeah. But when you start seeing it as, wow, my parents actually cared enough. Yeah.
It was actually super cute that my dad was like, I need girls to come home because I literally cannot fall asleep and I need rest. So I need to hear all those footsteps going up the stairs.
Yeah.
So that that was the reason. And our friends, we were like, wow, have fun. You guys are going to have a great night. And they're like, well, at least your parents care about you.
Right. So the same is going to apply when we're talking about underage drinking. Right? When we actually set those limits and boundaries for a lot of teens, that containment is their ability to be able to say, oh no, dude, I can't. My parents are I'd be in so much trouble.
Right.
And so for them, it's kind of like, whew, dodged a bullet.
Yeah. Yeah, you throw your parents under the bus, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think also that parents are afraid? I feel like I see this a little bit, that parents are afraid that if they put restrictions in, that they're going to upset their kids are going to get angry and then leave or yell at them. And I just feel like there's a lot of parents who are fearing their children's reactions.
Fearing big emotions seems to be a theme right across. Okay. Right? Wouldn't you?
Oh yeah, you don't want your kid to have a tantrum when they're little, and then you don't want them to.
But generations ago, if somebody had a temper tantrum, the interpretation of the parent would be like, well, everyone gets upset, he'll work it through.
Right.
And now there's this feeling of fragility that if somebody is very angry or if somebody is very anxious or any of the big emotions, we somehow think that this is a not okay state. We've got to get better at being okay with big emotions.
Right.
You can be really mad at me and I still love you.
Right.
As opposed to, okay, go ahead and drink. It's like, you're going to be really mad. I get it.
I'm okay with that.
You're really mad at me.
Yeah. And that's all right.
Yeah. So given the range of your kids, when did you start talking to them about alcohol? How did you get the conversation going? When did it all start?
It's funny. I just feel like it's probably most conversations that I've had with my kids. And that is it's just always been a conversation. It's just always we'll notice, obviously you have people in your lives and, they see drinking in social situations and they see it on TV and we would just always make commentary or have conversation, or they'd see a movie where there's underage drinking. We'd be like, whoa, that kid ended up getting themselves in a bit of trouble. How do you feel about that? What would you do if you were in that situation? Have your friends been in that situation? So kind of before the age that it might be a thing, we're making sure we're having the conversation. So maybe kids when they're 15, 16, 17 start experimenting. So I'd rather have the conversation when they're 10, 11, 12.
Well, and
get in front of it.
And think I had 6 kids in my family growing up, but there was 4.
Right.
So being the baby in the family, I had privy to conversations that were meant for my eldest brother.
Right.
Yes. So I was watching The Godfather when I was 4 or 5. I'm not.
Yeah, right? you youngest.
Get exposed.
Totally.
You get exposed to a lot, but I think for the good.
Right.
I really do think for the good. And so kids can, I think, hear that conversation. Right. Probably way earlier. So again, just for the people that are watching, I'm curious. Type in, tell me, what age did you start the conversation? And maybe the other question is, what holds people back from not?
Okay, so I totally have a theory about this. And I think it's just that these conversations aren't happening because I think parents don't feel equipped to have the conversation.
Well, that's what we're trying to solve. I want to get them equipped.
Right. So a kid asks, and I think the kids learn this early. So I think kids start learning from a young age that when they ask a certain question and they see their parents tense up and say, we'll talk about it when you're older, that to them means like, that's not a safe place to ask questions.
Which is why I love what you talked about with the movie and using things in the news in context, because it gives you a dry run so that you can tell them how you're going to respond. Right. So you can say, like, that guy got in that car and look what ended up happening. I would never want, you can always come to me.
Right.
And you're not, it didn't really happen, but you're using the movie or the news or whatever to say, here's the reaction that you can likely expect.
Perfect.
From
so
me.
yeah, but I think those things don't happen when parents don't feel comfortable. But I think that's such a great tip because you don't have to wait for your kid to ask questions. You can look for opportunities for these discussions, right? Any news items, like whenever there's something in the newspaper, if there's a driving, if there are a bunch of kids who ended up getting in trouble. Like I find I do that with social media. Whenever kids do something on social media and they have like messed things up and it's gone viral and blah, blah, blah. I love those because I sit down with my kids. I'm like, oh gosh, here's a kid who used social media irresponsibly. Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
You know, what do you think about this post and then we have a big conversation about it.
Which is so much, I mean, kids are concrete and contextual, right?
Yeah.
Like they want to know, like, how does this affect me? How does it work in my world? And so the fact that there is like somebody at your high school, somebody your age on social media, like that grounds us sitting and kind of having a conversation. Like, today I would like to go through the Why We Don't Drink book. Is unlikely to engage them. And I think, again, just speaking to you and your family, because I just think you're such a great example. Many parents will say that their kids don't want to listen to them. They don't like to sit down. Like, you've managed to keep your kids conversational and engaged, and you have a good, healthy relationship with your kids to have them. How do we get parents to move the needle towards better relationships with their kids so that these conversations, are flow better?
Flow and they're more natural. I think there's a couple things. So like to my point before, when they're young, don't be afraid that like if they ask you about, oh, how did you make that baby? Don't freak out. If they ask the question, they're ready for an answer.
Yeah, right.
So if they see you start freaking out with any question or any conversation, you're not open. The other thing too is that I start, again, from a young age, I really am engaged in the things that they're interested in, even though it's so boring for me. Like,
thank you.
Right? Like I think about like my son will be like, hey mom, who's your favorite Pokemon? And I want to yell out, I don't have a favorite Pokemon. I'm 40 something years old. But instead
wasn't designed for my age cohort.
Right? Instead I say, Psyduck, because I like what he evolves into next. Like, and then he's like, oh, I like Psyduck too, because and it's like this conversation is really not that stimulating for me. But I know if he thinks that I am listening and I'm engaged in what he's interested in, then these conversations will continue.
Yeah,
that's my theory.
And and I love that. And what a difference from saying,
Pokemon sucks.
Right? I mean, can you imagine? We would never say like, I'm not going to your ballet recital. I hate ballet. No, like who? No, right? But it's like, what are you doing on Fortnite? Like, so
exactly. And you know what? No, honestly, I think that's a really good point. And it's about valuing their interests, right? And it sends a huge message because I've seen parents who just go in and slam the laptop, and I'm like, if somebody did that when I was like in the middle of an email or a
Grey's Anatomy
or a Grey's Anatomy, right? Yeah, it's like
it's rude. It's
so rude.
It's so rude.
You don't know how important these things are.
And I think the other thing when it comes to some of the conversations about alcohol and topics like that, I think parents end up preaching.
Right.
Like I think they're just like, I've got this important content that I want to get it from my brain to your brain about what and so I think the minute you come off preachy and sort of one up, one down, sort of that superior, inferior arrangement in communication, kids are so sensitive to being talked down to. That's the difference between a dialogue and a lecture.
For sure. The other thing that I think that I've done and been sort of mindful of is that like I will tell them stories about from when I was their age and things that I saw happen, or maybe even things that I did or whatever.
Yeah.
And rather than being it all like, oh, the good old days and oh, that time, because then I always feel like they're going to be like, well, I need a crazy teenage life or whatever. And so I'll be like, you know what? This happened at a party once, and it was such a drag because this kid got so sick, and we had to go to the hospital and got her stomach pumped, and we had to call her parents. It was a gong show, you know. So like I'll tell a story, but I'll be like, I won't make it like it was like the most fun thing ever.
Parents say that. Should I lie to my kids about my behavior? Because I'm asking them to do something that I didn't necessarily do. I say, and I don't think you should ever lie to kids. Right. But I think you always want to start, if you're going to tell them a story, what's the lesson that you want to come out of it? So the lesson is, to your point, to glorify youth drinking. Then you're going to tell it one way. If your story is, boy, you know, that turned out to be a really bad situation. I wish I could do a redo myself. I think that's better than, and of course, it's not the whole like do as I say, not as I do. We're being humble humans. But you know, to be able to say we're in a relationship, I think I know some good stuff that might be helpful to you. Right. And if they like you and they value, and they're like, of course, because she likes Pokemon, so why wouldn't I take her advice? We're close. She's not trying to jerk my life around. Yeah. She's not out there purposely trying to ruin my buzz.
The same team.
Yeah. So I think that the part that the relationship comes first is so important, because when we're asking kids to go off to those parties and we're asking them to make good decisions and that we expect them to follow family rules, they're out there on their own. They have to actually make that decision without you looking over their shoulder. And so the idea of, I don't want to, like, I like my parent, I don't want to upset them. I don't want to disappoint them. I don't want to rock the boat in my relationship and risk that. I want to keep the trust of my mother.
For sure.
That is like a prime motivator for kids. When they say, why didn't you drink? The research shows they'll say, because I didn't want to disappoint my parent.
You know what? And honestly, that is the situation in my family. Like, I feel like my kids, I don't ever have to punish them. Like I don't. Like, they don't do things. Like, if somebody does something wrong, they come to me, they're like, oh, and I'm like, oh, what do you think about that? They're like, you know what? I think I need to cool it on. Maybe I'll have my phone, or I'll be like, you know what? Whatever. Just don't do it again. Like, they don't need me. I've never grounded a child.
Yeah, and parents need to hear that. Parents can't believe that you could do child correction and be a disciplinarian, not because you are not a doormat parent. Yeah. They don't understand that you can use that influence and relationship to keep kids moving in pro-social ways. Parents just have this idea that it's got to be punitive. Right. But of course, if you're punitive, and I think this is where it really comes up with risks around alcohol. When you go through those stories in the news and whatever, and you say, well, why didn't someone get help? Why didn't someone call a parent?
They were afraid to.
They were afraid of getting in trouble. They're afraid you aren't going to let me go to that party. We're afraid that you're not going to let me go to that person's cottage. Yeah. And I think with my kids, I always said, I'm not going to go rearrange life for you. Yeah. You're going to go out into a world where alcohol is going to be offered to you, where I'm not going to be there to supervise. Yeah. And so you need to be able to manage that on your own.
Right.
So yes, you can go to that cottage, and I'll expect you to say no.
Yes.
No. Again, didn't they? I don't know. The important point is, I showed them my trust, and my kids said that trust was worth everything to us.
For sure. And also, they know that if push comes to shove and, it hit the fan, they knew that you were a safe person to call.
And maybe this is happening. Do other people call you?
Oh man, yes,
right?
I have 3,000 children.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, because each of your kids have a group of friends, and when you're the mom that people trust, because you're not going to be punitive, that you understand that you are going to provide help, not criticism. Yeah. Then and look at how much help they really need. Yeah. And those stories, like well, of course I got in the car because it was my ride home. Doesn't matter if it's your ride home. If someone's drinking, you call me. I'll get up at 2:00. I can send you an Uber.
Yes.
You can pay people now. You can pay people to drive your car home, so it's there for work the next day. There's no problem that can't be solved. And so you got to dry run all those things with your kids.
Absolutely. I'd say the other thing that I try to do as a parent, and this kind of goes for like across the board, but for sure with drinking too, is that I try to role model sort of healthy drinking, or like non-excessive drinking. And also like that I don't want my kids to always think, oh, adults have to drink to have fun.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So I try to make sure that they're seeing everybody have fun, and we go on hikes and we do stuff like that where it's not alcohol like base.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and Catherine, are people putting in questions? Are you?
We got lots.
Super. Okay. Because we're chatting away here and I can't see the screen. So we are going to go to question and answer and get you in this conversation, but I need you to load it up so we know where the conversation is going to go. So I think the other thing too that I think parents are worried about talking about is like some of just the risks and consequences for drinking. Yeah. So when you're talking about why we don't drink and what are the risks, I know for me and for the #Family Talk program, we do go into that the teen brain is under construction. I mean, that's why we have so many other laws that are
100%.
age-based. You can't vote.
Yeah.
You can't drive a car.
When did they say the brain is developed, like late 20s or something?
Yeah, it's
like,
yeah, it takes a long
there's
time.
There's a lot going on. We don't want to mess with that.
Yeah. So I mean, so I'm not criticizing my kids to say you're going to make bad decisions.
Yeah.
I'm saying is the brain is already having issues with prefrontal cortex functioning.
Yeah.
And then when you add alcohol that's going to slow that down, then poor judgment is, and so, and again, to your point about examples, like look, the boneheaded stuff that happens at those parties, not good judgment.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The girls who got in trouble because they shouldn't have done that because they were drinking. Yeah, that's not just the girls, guys too.
Yeah.
And of course, now we're seeing a huge rise in binge drinking. So now we really do have to talk to kids about what alcohol poisoning looks like.
Right.
Because if you think, they'll sleep it off, they're passed off in the corner, that's so cute, I'll take a picture of them and put them up on Instagram. And in fact, they've consumed so much alcohol that the brain stem is shutting down and respiration stops and they die.
When I was at university, a kid choked on his own vomit in a stairwell.
Yeah, right.
And university student.
Yeah. So, I mean, and these are so avoidable, but it also comes to education. And if they don't hear it from us, what they're going to see is the glorified image that a lot of media puts out that you got to be social, you got to have the party.
We're on the boat in our bikinis with our drinks.
And it looks really glamorous. And if we don't say, actually, most of this party end up with some guys getting in a fight. Somebody doing something sexual that they wish they regretted in the morning. We got to talk about the fact that it's not all glamour.
Right.
And to your point, you don't need to have alcohol to have fun. How many cultures around the world where there's
no drinking at all?
You think they don't have festivals?
Right?
Festivals.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. Yeah.
So negative consequences. How to get the conversation early. Just trying to think if there's anything. What do you think? Are other big things that come to your mind that you think about what's been successful with your family?
We should see what the questions are.
Yeah, let's dig in there.
Because it does seem like, it always feels like to me that when they come out with the questions, like that's where it's like, Yeah.
But plus, I just reiterating this, folks, this program is for you. And so, of course, we are hoping that you will get involved through asking questions. But it's let me know also ideas for future programs so that I can know where that holdback point is for you, that if you had some support around it, we'll get
what's scaring you about this conversation?
What is scaring you? What's holding you back? Where is it still the sticking point? So let us know that too. And there is a survey because all of this is supposed to be helping parents feel empowered and to be able to move the needle on attitudes and behavior. So please it's a 5-minute survey. Click on the link. That would really super help me out because we'd like to keep going. We want to know that we're being effective and serving you in the best way we can. So Catherine, what do we got?
So in line with what you guys were just saying, one of the concerns had to have the talk is when a spouse is not on board. So if your partner doesn't feel it's a good time to have the conversation or avoids it, how do you have that talk with kids?
There can be so many things that you and your partner don't agree on. This is like what
that's parenting.
It's stop thinking that it's. I always say if you parent exactly the same, one of you is redundant.
Yeah.
That they're.
And I like to say, it's okay if you don't agree. Or if you don't agree with me, but that'd be fine. But then we'll both be wrong.
Yeah, that's right. Let's both be wrong.
Yeah.
It's so I would I guess I would pose the question. Have you heard the other party out to find out exactly why they're either opposed or not? Because she didn't really say whether they wanted to have the talk, and she didn't. Or
one wants to and one doesn't.
Yeah. So first, I always think with communication, you really want to understand the other person's perspective, so you really know what their fear and worry is. And then another thing you can do is decide whose worst fear is greater. You know what I mean? With the consequences, if they lived out and were true, which one is going to be worse? And then I would also say, how do you typically handle disagreements in the relationship? And if it is that one person always gets their way, then this really needs to be more a conversation about the communication patterns in the marriage. And I'd recommend going for some marriage counseling because we really don't want to have relationships where it doesn't matter what I say, we always do it his way anyways or her way anyways. And so this is just maybe one example of where they constantly are at a block, in which case you bust it open for all your topics. Yeah.
But it could be about, like, maybe it has to do with a lot of parenting things. So maybe that's when it's not good to talk to somebody like you.
Absolutely.
Like if they're like, I know parenting teenagers can be hard, right? And you've got two people not necessarily agreeing on how this is happening. And also then you have some teenagers who are maybe, misbehaving or not making it easy on mom and dad.
Yeah.
Then it might be time to talk to an Allison type. You know?
Yeah. No. Well, and to your point, by in the teen years, you got to know that you've got young adults.
Yeah.
So they're going to bring a certain energy in, whereas a toddler might be able to control a little bit more.
Yeah.
Also just in terms of worst fears, I think a lot of people think that if we talk about it, it's going to happen. That if we talk about drinking, they're going to start drinking.
Right. And this is the whole sex ed thing,
right?
Yeah.
I mean, so if we look to any of the research, the more educated kids are, the better decisions they make. So if they know about sex and protection, they're likely to hold off on sexual encounters. They're more likely to have safe sex. And it's the same with alcohol. If they actually know the information, then they've got your support. You are a protective factor so that they're more likely to delay drinking. And in fact, it's important for parents to know we're making progress. The majority of teens, minors in Canada, do not underage drink. And that's an improvement. We are moving the needle. So this kind of education is making a difference.
There's an impact.
Whatever. So I'm not sure exactly what the fear is about the conversation.
Yeah, I find that interesting too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, what happens when a parent threatens punishment but doesn't follow through?
Nothing good comes of that.
We love to threaten because we think kids are going to be corrected from the threat. But in fact, when we don't follow through, we are making a mockery of our leadership. And kids, they know. They're like, sure, you want, but nothing ever happens. Yeah. So it's not even worth making the threat.
I just never do the if you. I just never, like, even when they were little, if I wasn't prepared to follow through, I just wouldn't say it, And then the couple times where just in that moment, you're like angry and you do it, and then you're like, oh no, now I have to follow through, and I would make myself.
Yeah. And the thing that I'm guessing that most parents are saying, like, I'm going to take away your phone, because that is just like for an adult, right? Yeah. And then you realize you've got this miserable teen who, right? Or same with, you said you don't ground your kids, and a lot of parents are like, oh, now they're home.
Yeah. I'm like, I don't want them at home.
Or they work, that's it, I'm canceling the trip to Disney. Yeah. Oh, wait a minute.
I don't want to
go to Disney. Yeah. So you have to, punishments are based on the idea that if you experience fear, you want to move away from fear. But in fact, being punitive to children really is an abuse of power, and it reduces learning, doesn't increase learning, hurts the relationship, and it's not the only tool. That's the point. Right. It's not like your kids weren't disciplined. Right. It's not the only tool. So we have to think about consequences and problem solving, and to your point, and what will we do differently in the future? What can we do to make this right? What can we do to make sure this doesn't happen again? And you can invite teens into that conversation.
Yeah.
And you said, like, they actually have an incredible mind for justice.
For sure.
Like, they're kind of like, that was bad.
They're not trying to get out of it. They're actually a little bit like, okay, what do I need to do to make up for this?
Yeah.
They feel bad.
Yeah. And again, but you got to have that good relationship. Yeah. And punishment is going to hurt the relationship. So you should get a double win on that one. Yeah. Go ahead, Catherine.
Okay. My daughter feels like I'm lecturing her whenever I bring up this heavy topic. Is it wrong to try and lighten it? And how can I lighten the mood when I say it?
Sometimes kids just listen through a filter that they've just decided you're always lecturing. Right. And you might not feel like you are, or the same thing. Some kids say, why are you yelling at me? And you're like, I'm not yelling at you. Yeah. But if you've got a kid who's already decided that they're, then when they see a certain look in your face that you represent threat, then they're going to see.
You can't argue that then. That's
it's perception.
Right?
It's their perception. Yeah. So I like your idea of lightening it up, because it really shouldn't be like it's an important topic. It doesn't mean it's a heavy topic. So I like the idea of the movies.
Yeah, the movies or the news articles, or just, using other sort of things to reference. Not them specifically in their drinking, just what's going on in the world. Yeah. And pulling that in.
And asking them.
Yeah.
Like, that's the other thing. If you just look at her as being the expert of her cohort, right? Mm-hmm. And you can kind of say, like, so, like, is there a lot of pressure? So, what are people doing when alcohol, what are they even bringing in? Like, get really curious.
I'd be super curious too. Like, if that were me, I'd be like, kiddo, like, why does this feel like lecturing to you? How is it that I'm saying it? Like, sometimes I'll be like, what are you hearing? Tell me about how this sounds like lecturing. Because I feel like I'm just like asking you a few questions because I'm interested in what's going on out there. I haven't been a teenager for a while, so I'm trying to understand. So tell me how this feels like lecturing, because I want to, I'd like to change that up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just have that open conversation, right?
And I would also say that parents, just be mindful that on the average day, a parent gives 200 compliance requests to a child.
Are you
Hang up your
kidding me?
coat, brush your teeth, get your lunch, da-da-da. And so, like, if that's the tone,
200.
200. 60% of them are ignored, which just shows you how ineffective we are and how unimportant they are.
Right.
They're clearly unimportant. You wouldn't,
Right.
you know, I mean, a compliance request, the house is on fire, you should leave.
Yeah.
That one is probably good, right? But how
My
many
kids are not getting 200 a day, I can assure you.
right?
There's no
200
way.
each, yeah.
So, I wouldn't be able to say, I wouldn't have time to say anything else.
Right. That's right. So I think for some people, I think that because we're kind of on our kids all the time,
Right.
again, that's that superior inferior communication style. So I like your idea of saying, help me. I don't want to come off that way.
Yeah.
And give me tips and advice on how I can talk without.
Why is it
that
landing
being-
that way?
Yeah, why is it
I
landing
love
that way?
Yeah.
Get that, yeah.
Yeah, I
like
find that. Yeah.
Here's a good one.
Okay.
I get that we should try and be the person they can call and be open with and not judgmental, but what if they are breaking the rules and drinking? What is the fair punishment?
So now we're using the word fair punishment.
Just punishment.
I think that's an oxymoron.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I'm suggesting no punishment, but instead we can talk about consequences and problem solving. So the consequence doesn't mean you need to. You don't have to do something to them. There's maybe already consequences. Consequences might have been they're hungover.
Yeah.
Right? They made
There's a lot
fool
of natural
themselves.
consequences.
They're like, I cannot look anyone in the eye.
And they have social media. We didn't have that.
That's right. So
Yeah.
believe you me, there's probably a lot of consequences. And you may need to circle back and find out, do you owe an apology to so-and-so? Do you need to take the carpet cleaner over and, whatever? There might be some things that need to be.
Did you puke on somebody's shoes?
Yeah, right. Yeah, going to the mall.
Bring the polish. Yeah.
And take that post down.
Yeah.
That's not good.
Yeah.
So there are consequences. We want to help them be accountable and clean up for their consequences to make right on that. But the point is, mistakes are opportunities to learn. It's not about punishing. It's about, so tell me what happened there that you decided to go against family rules, and what made it hard to say no in this environment this time. And let's work on that. And let's give you some other ideas. And do you want to take zero alcohol beer with you so you don't look like you're standing around without a drink? Do you want to take something in a sippy cup? Do you want to tell people you're taking meds and you can't drink because whatever? Let's work on maybe you need a different set of friends that aren't pressuring you.
Right.
Because good friends shouldn't you would see.
Free hanging out.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's really good
That's
advice.
learn, take it as a learning opportunity.
Yeah.
And then to clean it up, not just with drinking, but I'm sure with all the other whatever has happened in our kids' lives, right? And then you got to do it, like clean slate.
Yeah.
We talked about it, we cleaned it up, and now I trust you to be fine.
That's right. We call it our autopsies, like the autopsy situation. So if something like that happened, it'd be like, okay, what went well, even better if.
Oh, I like that. Even better if.
Even better if.
Yeah.
For even like when they were little and we'd go to a restaurant, I'd be like, okay, when we go in the restaurant, we have to sit, we gotta, what does it look like? What does it sound like? Let's practice. Blah, blah. And then afterwards, it'd be like, okay, we had a nice night at the restaurant. What went well? Even better if,
Yeah.
and be like,
There's the growing edge.
Yeah.
But you're focusing on that's
Totally.
a total counseling skill, right? You look at the strengths and you build on the strengths. You don't sit there and say, okay, so we went to the restaurant. Yeah. If all we do is focus on the negative, we're going to get more of the negative. If we focus on the positives, we get more of the positives. And our kids are going to experiment. And they're going to make mistakes. And I don't want to be naive about that, but nor does it mean that I'm going to my earlier point, throw up my hands and condone.
Right.
So every time I say, like that movie, speaking of movies, I'm going to forget her name, where she keeps, shouting out to her son, don't do drugs, whatever, every time they're saying goodbye, right? And she's like, every time I tell my kids, all right, make it proud, have a good time, have a good night.
Make good choices.
Make good choices. Make good choices. See you later. But they go out.
Yes.
But they go out.
Yeah.
That's what they do.
Yeah, that's
In this case, someone's child saw an older teen drinking, neighbor, and the parents were allowing it. So they came home and told their parent they're allowed to drink, can I? So how should you handle it if neighbors or friends are allowing their kids to
different families, different rules? Is that what you do?
Totally.
Yeah.
And again, so this is where I think the parents maybe should have more confidence about the alcohol application, because you would say the same thing if it was about other things, right? Like they're allowed to play this video game that's X-rated or whatever. And same things, like their family can operate the way they want to.
Yeah.
That does not determine ours. Yeah.
That's right. Different families, different rules. That's always, I'm always like, if you want to go live with them.
and they don't, right?
They really don't.
No, and in fact, we're more likely to be the family that have like the hanger-on.
That's right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
One more?
Sure. Yeah. Don't even know what time it is, so sure.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people have asked me what age to start at, and if there's a difference between boys and girls, you can maybe start a little bit earlier or later because one might be more at risk.
What is the gender thing?
Well,
Is there?
you know, so I believe, I understand that they're saying that there is difference in the drinking patterns and why the motivation for girls and boys to drink. I do think there's a gender thing there. But when I'm talking about when to get started, I'm actually starting like if a toddler picks up a beer at a barbecue and does this, I'm not going to laugh and go, ha, 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 I think that's cute. I'm going to say, no, that's for adults. So in a sense, that's at 2, I'm already talking about alcohol. And it's different at 4. It might be, you know, Uncle Raymond fell down at the backyard barbecue because he was drinking too much and that's irresponsible. So that's talking about alcohol. So it's not like I just, you know, it kind of just seeps in. So I hope that
finding those opportunities.
Yeah.
And
and so
they'll present themselves to you.
Yeah.
I mean, look at our society. It will present itself to you. You will have lots of opportunities.
And if the to your point about have that good relationship, so that when you're curious about your kids' lives, it doesn't seem like probing. They'll say like, oh, this guy brought this thing in the knapsack.
Yeah, totally.
Great. And
sometimes I feel like my kids tell me too much.
And you're like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah, right.
Little privacy. Privacy. But I will tell you that it starts a lot younger than you think. I think a lot of parents think, you know, when they're teenagers, they go to high school, we're gonna just cover this off. And then, you know, you got grade 6s. Right. Most of the tomfoolery that happened in my kids and their peer group was in middle school.
Really?
In middle school. So it was
a crazy place.
So start. So So I
grassy.
Start early. Start early. Start early. Just keep the doors open. Just
with both boys and girls and everyone in between.
Yeah.
Yep.
For sure.
All right.
So, folks, thank you so much for your participation. And as I said, if you put those comments in the comment field, I'll hop on after because I know we didn't get to answer anything, and we've got links and different things for resources. Go to my YouTube channel. You'll see all the other hashtag family talk videos that we've made. All the information is there. Please do me the kind favor of going up to the survey link. It really is only 5 minutes. I will say it's just for people in Canada. So I know we get viewers from outside. I would hate for you to go all the way through and then find out that you don't qualify for the survey. And we've got a $5 Tim Hortons gift card to thank you for your time. And a lucky winner for that $250 Visa draw as well. So we'll let people know when their name's been drawn and contact you. But please, like the page, share this video, spread the word. The whole idea is we want to get as many parents feeling as empowered as we can by supporting one another on this journey to get us through the teen years safe and sound and preventing underage drinking. So Julie, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Have a great night.